Hey Sugar Spun Bakers, Sam here, and today I am so excited to be sharing another carefully tested, well-researched, and perfected recipe. You may notice a change of scenery today and a couple of new faces. I have two of my best friends here. We have Jessica from Savory Experiments, and this is her beautiful kitchen where we are filming today. I also have Amy from House of Nash Eats, and together we are going to be making chocolate cake pops completely from scratch. So we have our oven preheating to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. So let's go ahead and prepare a baking pan. If you could spray that with baking spray for me, just get the bottom and the sides of it, that will be good to go. And we can start measuring out our ingredients in our mixing bowl. So I have a large mixing bowl here. I'm going to be using my scale today, and we'll start with 125 grams or 1 cup of all-purpose flour.
Now, could you use cake flour for this?
So you could use cake flour, but you would want to make sure that you do a proper substitution. Now, if you are using weights, then it's just an equal swap. But if you are going to be using measuring cups, it's a little bit more complicated. You have to do a little bit of subtraction or addition depending on which way you're going. So just Google it first, make sure you make the proper substitution. Now, the next thing we're going to need is a cup of granulated sugar, and that's 200 grams. Now, one thing I love about this recipe is that the cake can be made in just one bowl. So the next thing we're going to need is cocoa powder. We're going to need a 1/3 cup of cocoa powder, and I recommend natural cocoa powder for this recipe. Now, do either of you have a preference with like natural versus Dutch?
I use them both all the time. It kind of just depends on how dark I want the cake or whatever recipe I'm making to be.
I would say that if you only have Dutch in your kitchen, you could probably get away with that, but as you mentioned, the cake's going to be a little bit darker, which isn't necessarily a problem. So after the cocoa powder, we're going to add our baking soda, not baking powder, and you'll need 3/4 teaspoon of this. And we'll also be adding salt. We just need a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. This is just table salt. I don't recommend kosher salt with this recipe. So I'm going to go ahead and start whisking this together. We want to make sure we don't have any lumps from the cocoa powder remaining. And would you do me a favor and get the eggs going?
Absolutely.
For today's recipe, we're using 1 egg plus 1 egg yolk. So the next thing, we have our eggs ready. We're not going to grab those just yet. The next thing I want to add is our butter. We need a 1/2 cup of melted unsalted butter, and you can add that right in.
Okay.
And I'm going to have you scrape that because I do not leave any butter behind.
No.
All those fats, get all of them.
All of the fat. I want it all in there.
That's liquid gold.
Yes. And I am going to, before we add anything else, I'm going to stir the butter in. Now what I want to see here is I want to make sure all of the dry ingredients are coated with that butter. So I don't want to see any dry crumbs remaining.
This is really interesting because when I've made cakes and other types of doughs and batters, I usually cream together the sugar and the butter beforehand instead of adding melted butter. What's this technique called?
So I like to think of this as my own kind of version of reverse creaming. It's not traditional reverse creaming. It actually makes the job of making the batter quicker because we're using melted butter. We are coating all of those gluten strands with the butter. It's going to make for a more moist cake. It also makes it possible for us to make this in just one bowl. It's a little different, but it works very well.
It's like the science of baking.
Yes, there's a lot of science to baking. It's kind of crazy. But once you have your butter completely incorporated, we'll add the eggs.
Okay.
So Amy, you have an egg and an egg yolk there. These are large eggs, and these should really be at room temperature. Otherwise, you can end up sort of seizing that butter and you'll end up with a lumpy cake batter. So room temperature is best for all of your ingredients. What else?
I'm very guilty of not letting my eggs come to room temperature.
Sometimes you can get away with it. It's just, you take a little bit more of a risk. I would definitely say sometimes I have done that as well. But if you want to ensure you're going to have success, it's better to use room temperature ingredients. Good to know. Some recipes it matters more than others. I'd say in this one it matters. Okay, so the next thing we need is a 1/2 cup of buttermilk. If you don't have buttermilk on hand, because I know it can be hard to find sometimes, then you can make your own, and I have a recipe on my blog. It's very simple. You just need milk and something acidic, like vinegar or lemon juice. But would you go ahead and add the buttermilk? And I'm also going to need a teaspoon of vanilla extract if you want to add that in there as well.
Okay.
Why buttermilk instead of like heavy cream?
So buttermilk has a nice flavor to it, first of all, that heavy cream doesn't have. So it's going to make the cake more flavorful, and of course it has buttermilk. It has a lot of fat in it. It's going to make the cake more moist. but not too moist.
A little bit of tang though.
Yes, a little bit more depth of flavor, I'd say, because it doesn't really come out super tangy, but it does have good flavor. All right, so we'll stir these together. I'll try not to splatter anybody, but I'll let you.
Splash zone.
You're in the splash zone. I don't have a good track record. I always choose mixing bowls that are too small and splatter happens.
Do the same thing.
So once that's combined, which this is looking pretty good, the last thing we need for our batter is a 1/4 cup of hot water. I do like this water to be steaming hot, so we have the kettle. It's going to help bloom the cocoa powder a little bit. It's not a ton of water, but I think the heat certainly helps.
Oh, I think I did too much there.
That's okay.
Maybe
We can
pour a
just
little
pour
out.
out a little bit.
Okay.
And as you can see, we have some steam coming off of that. That's what you want to see. Boiling water would also work well here, but boiling water can get a little bit sketchy. I always worry somebody's going to get burned.
Okay, does that look good?
Yes, that looks perfect. Go ahead and add that in. And I'm going to mix everything together until we have a nice cohesive batter. Again, I apologize in advance for any splashes.
It's a risk I'm gonna take for cake pops.
It is a worthwhile risk.
I can really smell that cocoa powder with that hot water.
It does, I feel strongly it makes a difference. So the little extra effort is totally worth it here.
And could you replace that with like hot coffee?
Yes, 100%. Coffee is great because while it won't make the cake taste like coffee or even make it taste like mocha, it really, really helps enhance that chocolate flavor. So that's a great suggestion. Now this is looking great. One thing I always want to do is scrape the sides and bottom of the bowl. Amy, I don't know if you've got the spatula, if you want to give that a look.
Yeah.
We just want to make sure there are no lumps of flour remaining, no offensive lumps of batter. We want it to be pretty nice and cohesive. So this looks great. So Jessica, if you wouldn't mind pouring this into our cake pan.
Got it?
We can go ahead and get this baking. Now you'll want to bake it in the center rack of a 350-degree Fahrenheit oven. It needs to bake between 30 and 35 minutes. In my oven, it's usually 34, but ovens vary, so always check it at 30. What I like to see is a toothpick inserted in the center, should come out clean, or with a few moist crumbs.
And this is an 8-inch pan, right? So you
Yes.
could bake it in a larger pan for less time.
Absolutely, a 9-inch pan. You just have to shave a couple of minutes off of it and just keep an eye on it.
Can I have one of those?
You can have both of them. No, you can have one, yes.
I don't care who you are. There is nothing better than tasting dough and batter.
It's true.
I have found my people. If you think that's good, just wait till you try the cake pops. Okay, so our cake's out of the oven, and at this point, would you say it's completely cool?
Yep.
Okay, that is very important. You do not want to go any further with this recipe until your cake has cooled completely. How do you feel about getting your hands a little dirty?
I'm ready.
I want you to break this cake up in this mixing bowl and just use your hands. Don't mash it, but just you want to get it nice and crumbly, small pieces, nothing larger than a pea remaining. Okay, so Amy, we're going to start the frosting. And we are going to be making a chocolate frosting. It's basically a chocolate buttercream. And I'll start with 1/2 cup of softened unsalted butter. And I'm also going to add just a pinch of salt. And would you mind getting me a teaspoon of vanilla extract?
No problem.
Just gonna do, it's about an 1/8 teaspoon of salt, I'd say. Knock that butter over.
And you could do this with salted and just leave the salt out, right?
Absolutely, yes, of course. Now, I'm going to cream this until it is just smooth and creamy. We don't want any lumps remaining. That looks great. You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Okay, so my butter's not super creamy. My vanilla is making it slide around a little bit, but that's fine. So we can go ahead and start adding our drier ingredients. I need a 1/3 cup of cocoa powder and 1½ cups of powdered sugar. And we always want to add these gradually. So could you slowly add some of that? Just add about like a quarter
Yep.
bowl.
Whoops. So Sam, why is it important to add these gradually?
So 2 reasons. One is because if you add it too quickly, if you add it all at once, it can be hard for the butter to absorb it, and then you end up mixing forever. The second reason is because you're going to end up getting powdered sugar all over your kitchen. And even when I do this gradually, I always still end up with a mess, but this is going to help minimize it. So let me get it a little bit more incorporated. I like to not see any powdered sugar on the bottom of the bowl before I start adding more. Okay, if you want to add more of that,
Yep.
awesome.
I have a confession to make.
Oh boy.
I've never made homemade cake pops from scratch.
Ooh, you are in for a treat then, because I'm not going to lie, these are so much better than ones that you make from a box mix. I know.
I didn't even make it from a box.
Oh man.
I got donut hole munchkins and I dipped them in chocolate.
You know, that sounds delicious. I'm not gonna lie, I would eat that. But I really think you're gonna really love these.
I've told you before, I'm a lazy baker. I'm really looking forward to these.
No, hey, I get that. And like I said, I would eat that. But I think you're going to be really, really pleased with how these turn out.
And you could make these with other flavors, right? Not just chocolate.
Yes, you can. I actually have a vanilla cake pop version, and that's why I ended up developing this recipe, because people were asking, can I add cocoa powder to the vanilla cake? And it doesn't always work that nicely. You can end up with some kind of wonky results. So my chocolate cake pops were born from that request.
I'm getting cake pop all over. I'm sorry it's on your shoe.
It's okay, worse things have happened. So,
do your kids love doing this?
Oh yeah. My kids love, well, Luke loves being in the kitchen with me. Rhett's a little young. Would you go ahead and add the cocoa powder? This is a 1/3 cup of natural cocoa powder.
All at once?
Yeah, let's do it all at once. I think I can handle it, but I've been wrong before. But yeah, Luke loves to do this with me. In a little bit, we're going to get even more hands-on than this. So maybe not as much as you're doing now, but that's a really fun thing for kids to help with. So cocoa powder is super dry. It's great for the chocolate flavor, but it is a little bit dry. So if I start to get annoyed with how much I'm mixing here, I'll start to add my cream. For this recipe, you are going to ultimately need 2 tablespoons of cream anyway. So let's go ahead and add the first tablespoon right now. It'll make our job a little bit easier. Awesome. And then we'll hold off on that second one, but we will need to add it.
There's cocoa powder in the air.
Doesn't it smell great?
And you could use like milk in a pinch, right?
Yes, absolutely. Milk's a little bit thinner, so I say start with 1 tablespoon and then just kind of eyeball it, check the consistency. So if you want to add that last tablespoon, wonderful. Get that mixed in. So once this is nice and smooth, Amy, would you like to go ahead and scrape the sides and bottom, make sure anything on the sides is nicely incorporated?
Okay.
And if we need to use the mixer again, we can.
Oh, it's
I'll take the
really
spatula.
on there.
Now this frosting is a little bit thick, but it shouldn't be so thick that it's making your spatula bend or anything. If you are struggling with the consistency, it would be okay to add another splash of cream. I would just do only about a teaspoon at a time. So frosting is ready, cake is ready. I'm going to add our frosting to our cake. Don't get rid of that mixer yet because we'll use it.
Need help?
Yeah, I was.
Yeah. Why don't I do this?
Thank you. Then everybody can see how we don't waste a drop of it.
No.
Never with chocolate.
So this is another thing I love about this recipe is that you've got homemade frosting.
Yes.
And a lot of ones I've had before use the canned frosting, and the flavor in this is really, really good.
I think it's worth the extra effort because it is extra effort. We have a couple more steps, but it is 100% worth it. So can everyone see the crumb that we have here? It's nice and finely broken up, no large pieces. That's important because when we're incorporating it, you don't want to have any chunks of cake. So you did a great job.
Thank you.
How much did you eat any cake?
I did not. 'Cause I
Man.
didn't want to like lick my fingers.
I admire your restraint. So now we just need to incorporate these together. I'm going to do it with a mixer on low speed, and I'll show you what the dough will look like when it's done, because really that's the best way to check it is just by looking at the consistency.
Can I clean some of this up for you?
That would be great if you guys don't mind. Thank you. Okay, now we're going to get our hands dirty again. You are already a step ahead of us on this. So I have 1.5 tablespoon sized cookie scoops. These are great because we're going to be doing level 1.5 tablespoon scoops. We're going to scoop them, roll them between our palms into nice smooth balls, and then just place them on our baking sheet here. I've lined this with parchment paper, but wax paper would also work really well. Now, I'm a little particular about this, but to make your lives easier, you're going to want to scoop it and then smash it against the side of the bowl. That's just going to make sure it's filled up all the way and you're going to be able to get a nice firm ball, not one that crumbles in your hands. So go ahead, everybody take a scoop. And now we'll see who has lumpy palms, because I do, and my cake balls always come out not quite as round as I'd like them to.
I have lumpier palms than you.
I'm pretty well practiced at this, I won't lie. I practice in my spare time. That looks great. Okay, let's knock these out. Okay, so we have almost all of them. This one's just gonna be a baby cake pop. As you know, we do not waste batter. Can you drop that on there?
Thank you.
So there's what, like 30?
You should get about 30, 32, sometimes a little bit less if you're really hungry and munch on it. That happens, it's casualty. But you should get about 30, I'd say. Now, these need to go in the freezer, so we're going to freeze them for 30 minutes. If you are not going to be able to get to them after that 30 minutes, I would recommend wrap these in plastic wrap and put them in your refrigerator instead of the freezer. If they get too cold, they're going to be difficult to spear and dip, and the chocolate's gonna crack. Speaking of the chocolate, that's what we're going to be doing next. So we are ready to start decorating, except the first thing you want to do is get your cake pop stand ready. You need somewhere to put them because you don't want to put them down on the chocolate or it's just gonna look funky. So I like to use egg crates, and cardboard egg crates work really nicely here. Grab yourself a wooden skewer, and we are going to poke holes in the bottom of these egg crates. You can see I have them upside down. And this is where we're going to be putting our cake pop sticks. So just pop a hole right there in the center of one, all the way through.
It's like arts and crafts.
Yeah,
I've seen people buy special cake pop stands, and that is not needed.
that is great if you have one or if you want to buy one, but I've never wanted to purchase a cake pop stand. I didn't know they existed until you just said that, honestly.
I've seen them on TV. I haven't actually, I mean, this is my first time making homemade cake pops, so.
I mean, it sounds great. The important thing is you have a place to put the cake pops where they're not going to mess up the chocolate.
Got it.
All right, so grab yourself a cake pop stick, and we're going to dip just the end in our chocolate. You can use, we have white chocolate here, regular chocolate there. Use your preference. And you're just going to do the end, and then take a cake pop or a cake ball, and we're just going to insert the stick halfway into that. Halfway in, and then go ahead and dip it right back in your mug of chocolate. Get it coated all the way over, and tap off any excess.
See how you don't want to make these too big. Mine's like very heavy.
Yeah, yes.
I'll use this.
No judgment here.
I'm guessing I'm gonna.
Yes, and then you can sprinkle it on.
I lost mine. I didn't go in far enough.
It's okay, that's your practice one.
Okay.
And then we'll add our sprinkles on top. Look at that. Whoa.
Okay.
We are having all kinds of fun over here.
Okay, so I've got this
Looks
Swedish
way prettier.
pearl sugar, and it's so cute with the chocolate.
Yeah, it's going to add a really nice texture to it too when you go to bite into that.
So you can use pearl sugar, you've got sprinkles.
I have sprinkles. Jessica has cookie crumbs. Really, these are great for anything. And you can dip them completely. You can roll them in the sprinkles. I also have these confetti cake crumbs that I like to make, and I will sometimes roll my cake pops in that afterwards. So just make sure you tap off the excess or it's going to drip and you'll end up wasting a lot of chocolate. Now these mugs are great for holding the chocolate just because they're kind of skinny, they're narrow. So it gives you plenty of room to dip it. If you were to use a more shallow bowl, you'll be scraping the bottom and it just doesn't work as nicely. Stagger your cake pops a little bit, that way you don't end up flipping over your egg carton if you put too many on the same side. So if you notice that the cake balls are not sticking nicely to the sticks and they're moving around a lot, kind of like what we're running into right now, it may be that they got a little bit too warm. So I know the lights can kind of do that when we're filming. So we're running into a little bit of that. If you are making these later and run into that problem, what you'll want to do is just pop them back in the freezer for a couple more minutes.
And I can see that the chocolate sets up pretty quickly.
Yes, so it's really important that if you are using melting chocolate like we're using here, we're using almond bark today, you want to make sure you add your sprinkles immediately after dipping because you won't be able to go back and sprinkle all of them. So glad you mentioned that. And I find I need about 15 ounces of chocolate in order to efficiently dip all of the cake pops. And that is really how you make chocolate cake pops at home. pretty easy. I hope you guys at home enjoyed today's recipe. And if you try this one out, please leave me a comment and let me know what you think. I always love hearing from you. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Okay, in a perfect world, we would let these cool completely and maybe even pop them in the fridge for about half an hour. But do you guys feel like waiting?
Nope.
No, I think we're gonna try them now. And yours look like the chocolate's set up. Mine's not quite ready.
The white chocolate may take a little longer.
Yeah, is it okay?
Yeah.
We're gonna try yours.
Go for it.
These look amazing. And I'm excited about the sugar.
Me too.
You ready?
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers. Okay, there's a total difference. That's a really rich, real chocolate flavor.
And the sugar, that's really good with it too. I
love
love the texture.
The crunch is great.
See, it was worth it.
It was totally
Now you'll be making cake pops from scratch.
100%.